Welcome to Michinori, Journey of Life. This is Nadia Sakurai, the creator of this podcast series. Every week, I'll take you along on a voyage filled with ups and downs as we listen to various people share their experiences of their careers and life endeavor. The voices you will hear are of those who have successfully found their calling, be it in the field of art or entrepreneurship. Did they always know what they wanted to do? What were the challenges they faced? How did they reach where they are now? Buckle up as we venture these questions and more. This week, we'll be journeying into the life of Joanne Leblanc.
I'm Joanne Leblanc. I'm 25 years old. I'm a co-owner, co-facilitator, and co-founder of my baby companies, Limitless Youth and Nuts and Bolts, that I opened with my partner, Sophia. We support children, youth, and families who are struggling with mental health out there in the world. And we kind of help everyone from point A to point B. They don't have to fall anywhere specific on a spectrum of how severe their mental illness is, what kind of mental illness. It can be from something as simple as having a hard time at high school, experiencing bullying, all the way to something as severe as borderline personality disorder or suicidal ideation. We kind of come from the lens that if you're struggling, we're here to help you. Mental health is something that's really important to me as a person. I grew up in a family as a little girl who had a really big heart in a family that had really big problems. So my family environment had struggles in addiction, mental illness, poverty, domestic abuse, violence, a lot of pain and a lot of hurt. A lot of what I went through was very generational and very vicarious and very complicated towards what my family was going through. So I had a really big heart and I was always trying to help my family, always trying to throw the love out there that I thought they needed, and always just trying to help us make it through, kind of like that helper role. As I grew up and I got older, I realized that my family wasn't very capable of giving me the love back that I wanted to throw at them, which caused me a lot of my own pain and hurt. But I wanted to shift that energy from a very young age. I wanted to build a life that made myself better and gave myself the empowerment and the freedom and the independence that I wanted that I wasn't getting, and also something that would really make a difference for people like my family, because I saw firsthand how scary it was for them. I saw firsthand how hard it was. And so I was kind of like smack dab in the middle of mental health issues and like kind of seeing it on my own individual level, you know, seeing cops show up to my house and like going on trips to the food bank on the bus and helping my sister to like get over really bad hangovers and like going to visit her at group homes. That was kind of my life. I grew up in mental health and addictions, difficulty all over that spectrum. So it's kind of my comfort area. It's actually really funny because for a long time when I was a kid, I wanted to be a social worker for adults because I didn't know my field, child and youth care, existed. And at the time when I was growing up, I thought, I want to be a social worker and I want to help people like my family. And then when I learned what child and youth care was while I was looking for college classes and things like that, that kind of shifted because I had this like beautiful revelation to myself where I thought, why am I trying to help people like my family, and kind of reflected on that. So when I was looking at the social work program too, I was thinking to myself, what 40-year-old in their right mind is going to sit across from this 18-year-old telling them how to change their life and take that seriously or not get defensive? Already my family of 40-year-olds got defensive when I did things. So I thought to myself, is that really realistic, going into a field that helps purely adults when I'm not even a young adult yet? Will I be respected? Will I even be able to like have people take me seriously enough that I could help them? I also had this really beautiful revelation where I thought maybe instead of helping the people like my family, I can grow up to help the little Joannes, and I can help kids who are like me, who are stuck in these situations, who don't feel like they have the power to be who they want to be or the power to do what they want to do. And maybe instead of focusing my whole life on how to help these people who A, don't want my help, and B, like aren't benefiting in general, maybe I can help myself. And so it was kind of this beautiful moment where I was like, I don't need to focus on the adults in my family. I can focus on little Joannes and help make their Michinori, make their journey a little better than mine was. My journey, it kind of started when I was 14. Because when I was 14, I went on this field trip to a really large mental health organization, a facility here in Ottawa. And on that field trip, I walked in, and the first thing I thought to myself was, wow, like big change happens here. This is where the big change for mental health is happening. And since then, I wanted to work my butt off to get to a place where I could work there, because that's where I thought youth mental health was being revolutionized. So like my sights from being 14 was set on this mental health facility. That was the only place I was willing to work. I manifested for it every day. Like on the vision board in my head, it was this facility. So I worked my butt off to get a student placement there in my 3rd year. My plan was to get the student placement, really impress the heck out of them, and then have them like me so much that they would hire me and I could go make really big change at my dream mental health organization and check it off my vision board and be the happiest, healthiest child and youth worker ever. So I got there. At the beginning, I was kind of just getting to know the place. So I was just really excited to be there. A lot of drive and a lot of ideas and a lot of creativity that I wanted to bring at the time to really impress them so that they'd hire me. And as I got to know the youth, we had groups that we ran, and I felt like that was my chance that I could really get in and I could put together a support group idea that would really hit and really work and make real change. So I got so motivated. I was looking around, I said, what can I add? What's missing? What can bring value to these groups that's not already there? So I put together this model and this group program on my own free time that I called at the time Personal Power Model. And I was like, I'm gonna make my own group programming stuff. I kept seeing in the youth, I kept seeing that they took about like 5 weeks in the program to even feel comfortable enough or confident enough to speak in group, right? So you had these recreational therapists coming in, you had these nutritionists and these professionals coming in to help these youth, but what's missing was these youth's ability to participate effectively in what they were taking part in. Maybe there's something I can do that will help them to harness that feeling of comfort and confidence to participate more effectively sooner, and then from that they can benefit more from all the other professional groups that they're engaging with because they feel like they can contribute. So personal power came from that idea, was how can I help them engage with what they're already engaging with, but on their level and better on an individual level, which looking back makes sense to limitless youth. So it's like, how can I help them as individuals to thrive more? The teens have a personal power to share their voice, to contribute what they need, to ask for what they need. And that is 50%, if not more, of what I felt was needed for them to really get what they wanted out of the group, because the whole group was for them. So without them participating and showing up, what's the whole group for, right? There's no point. So personal power is like my baby. I could talk about that for a whole podcast. This personal power model, I wrote 15 sessions in my free time. I worked 3 jobs on top of college to pay for school and to pay for my home. And I went to the placement Monday to Wednesday, and I went to classes on Thursday during the day on top of these 3 jobs. And somewhere I fit in the time to also write these sessions because that's how much I believed in them and how much I wanted to run them. And my supervisor let me run a few, and the teens really responded to it. They were loving it. And she let me try, I think I want to say 2, because I got to do my introductory session and I got to try one of the topics. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, there just wasn't room for it anymore. So the teens were loving it. Everything was going great. I wrote 15 sessions of it, but it wasn't in the curriculum of their mental health. And that was a problem. So it stopped. And then there was one moment that I was in a meeting the same week. And in that meeting, they were talking about their data systems. Like they have checklists that they do for the clients every day of like how the client is doing. Did they seem happy? Did they seem neutral? Did they have any big events that day? And they were talking as a group about how throughout all the hospitals, they had to standardize it. And people were adding too much subjectivism to the checklist. And the first thought that entered my head was, why are we taking all these professionals who have years of education to help people from their style and their practice to teach them this one way that we want the checklist done instead of the change that they could really bring these children and youth? So at the time, it really felt like you could bring in like any minimum wage teenager who wanted to work at McDonald's. And as long as you taught them how to use the checklist, they could work at the mental health organization, the mental health facility. And that really grinded my gears. We all are different people. We're all different snowflakes. So why are we all learning how to treat kids like one version of things? And it really rubbed me the wrong way, to the point where I went from spending 8 years trying to get employment at this place to completely dropping the idea entirely. I didn't want to work there. I didn't want to spend my time there anymore. And that was really confusing and kind of felt lost to me. I was getting really fed up with the system more day after day after day. And I just wanted to do it myself so that I could do it the way that I wanted. I really didn't want to go to school longer. I didn't want to become these titles that had power, because I felt, and I'd still believe, that the way that the system teaches these people to get all the way to the top to make that decision, I was worried about losing the passion that I had. I was worried about losing all the ideas that I thought were really important now by trying to fit someone else's idea to be quote unquote enough to like have those decisions. So in third year of college, Sophia had been experiencing some similar barriers, and she has her own dream that she was working on to see and be the change that she wants to have in the world. And we got talking about how frustrated we were, how this was so disappointing. Like, how do you find the power to make the change if the change comes from the system and the system sucks? Like, what do you do? There was an entrepreneurship program happening in June after graduation, and you had to pitch to get in. So you had to like prepare a presentation for what you wanted to create as a business, and you had to present it to them, share your like statistics, share what you thought it could grow into. And if they felt it had potential, they would accept you into this intensive program. And the presentation that we had in our classes shared about how you could start some private stuff as child and youth workers, small stuff like tutoring, or like you could open like new programs out in the world as a non-for-profit, etc. So at the same time, Sophia and I met up for homework every Saturdays. And every Saturday we met up and we like got giant Starbucks drinks and did homework for like 10 hours straight. And at the end of one of these sessions, I kind of turned to her and I said, "Did you have that presentation in your class?" And she's like, "Yeah, I did." And I was like, "This is going to sound really crazy, but like, do you just like want to do it? Like, do you want to do that?" And she was like, "I had the same thought, but I was like, that sounds crazy to say to you." And I think we're sitting in her car. She had like this like big old minivan at the time. And we're like in the school parking lot. Like, it's like we had been waiting the whole time to bring it up to each other because it was like the end of our 10-hour study session. And I was like, "Do you want to? Like, yes or no?" And then we were just decided, like, let's just give it a try. It kind of felt like we were like filling out numbers on a scratch ticket for the lottery and putting it in, because we were like, that would be really cool. Let's just go for it and see if like we could have that and that could exist. And that's kind of like where it began. So Limitless Youth is a very individualized company. We provide one-on-one support for kids and teens. Teens get assigned one worker to help them with all of their wellness goals and work on therapeutic activities with them, which is when the kids come and we get to play games and do scavenger hunts or cook food. And underlying it all, we make sure that we're helping them build emotional regulation skills and talk about their problems. I had a client once who was giving me a testimonial, and she said that talking about her problems was way easier when she got to scarf down grilled cheese at the same time. And I feel like that's the best visualization I could give you. Nuts and Bolts is very similar in the fact that we do a lot of play-based and it's fun and we're working on your stuff without being so stressful and sitting down and talking about it. But we use this obstacle course that has monkey bars and hurdles and step-ups and balance beams, and we add this fitness movement piece to get the kids and teens their endorphins going. Walking into a giant room filled with obstacle course equipment is super cool and doesn't feel therapeutic or like you're there to talk about your problems or work on them. And we do it very much from a group perspective. Nuts and Bolts has 6 kids per 2 workers, and we run like group support programs with the equipment, and we play obstacle course games and big group games that serve the same purpose, like emotional regulation and talking about your feelings, but with groups and bigger play. I feel like it's really important to have that one-on-one support because it creates a one-of-a-kind experience. Oftentimes, when I'm talking to clients for the first time or I'm talking to their parents before they sign up, I tell them that humans are like snowflakes and there's no one human that's identical to the other, just like there's no one snowflake that's the same. And I don't think that services should treat everyone like they're identical, nor do I think that it really works when it's not. So it's really important to me to build mental health services that fit each person rather than fitting something that I want as a person or something that certain funders want to see or certain things that are the trend thing in mental health to be addressing. I think that every service should match the snowflake, and every snowflake deserves something that completely wraps around them. And when you have one worker and one kid, you have the freedom, the time, and the connection to do that. What I do with some kids, I don't do with any others. I have kids and teens that we make playlists together. I have others that we do painting. I have some where we play Lava Monster and throw foam dice at each other. And I have others where we cook grilled cheeses and a different type of grilled cheese every day. That's why it's so important to me, because every one of my kids and teens is completely different, but I have the freedom with the one-on-one work to do that with them rather than have them fit something else. I feel like it's the most exhausting, stressful, wonderful, fulfilling, wondrous thing I've ever done, really. It feels like a dream most days, to be honest. I feel having something that's really ours and is unique and something that we've been able to build for ourselves, it feels almost too good to be true, if that makes sense. Limitless Youth is our baby, like we made it ourselves from our brains, from our hearts. So the fact that those not only exist but are also up and running and doing the damn thing, that's utterly impossible in my mind, but it's happening every day. I really feel like it's just the beginning. In terms of my past and kind of the things I've been through as a child, like in my mind, it really feels like that's like a book I've already written and I've already finished and made it to the end too. I've already lived through my childhood. I've already been disappointed by the organizations I thought I would work for. And it feels like that's a closed book. That's just volume 1, you know? And then I feel that in this entrepreneurship, like founding Limitless Youth, creating and co-owning Nuts and Bolts, like this is just chapter 2. I feel like this is a whole new life I've started since founding them, since creating them, since working on them. So I feel like I have no clue where it's gonna go. I feel like I am still getting a feel for the setting and the characters and like the tone of the story even. Like I feel like I got feet for the first time and walking like through the world of business and entrepreneurship. That's a whole other thing that I just started learning and learn more about every day. So I'm really excited to see where it goes because it just feels like here I am in the beginning of this new book and what's going to happen. What's chapter 3, 4, 5, all the way to like 25 hold. So really my next step is to just keep doing what I'm doing now and keep focus on what's really important so that everything grows the way that it is now, just bigger and better. Something that's been most memorable over this last 6 months or chunk of time has really been how many clients are speaking about what we do and giving testimonials for real. And it's really memorable because it makes it feel like not a dream, like it must be real. We're not selling a dream. We're not selling a belief system anymore. We're not selling what we hope will happen in the community. We have real words from real people and real human beings that what we're doing works. And that to me is beyond crazy. Like I'm a words of affirmation love language anyways. So like testimonials and like words of people saying that it really is doing what we want it to do. I like hold on to that with every inch of my being. Sometimes I just sit in bed after a hard day and like I read the testimonials. I'm like, it's okay. Like we're doing good things. Clearly it's not so terrible just because today was a stressful day. So the testimonials and like real clients liking our work, I think that's like really memorable for me recently.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Michinori Journey of Life. There's so much to learn from Joanne's journey. Even if you find you've lost your way and feel immense disappointment in your career endeavor, that's not always the end of the road. It's incredible how Joanne brought her vision to life by discovering another path that leads right to what she was aiming to do. Currently, Joanne is growing her businesses with her co-founder Sophia. But as she said, this is only the beginning of her new chapter. To keep up with her journey or to reach out to her, make sure to follow Joanne on Limitless Youth's social media accounts and website, which are listed on the Michinori webpage. Visit www.nadiasakurai.com/Michinori for more podcast details. That's www.nadiasakurai.com/MICHINORI. P.S. You can also find the website URL in the description. If you liked this episode, make sure to share the podcast or tell your friend about it. See you on the next voyage!